It's been almost a full year since we started this renovation. We started with stone and we're ending with stone. Today, it's gonna be our final episode.
This house was a derelict 1800s homestead on the Montana prairie this past winter. We're headed into winter again, but the house looks a whole lot different, yet kind of the same. The last finishing touch will be massive stone steps leading to the front door. Today is big, indoors and outdoors. We want to show you all our very first time really baking in this old cook stove, and it doesn't go smoothly, which is going to lead us to some troubleshooting. The cows are moving pasture right up to our front door, and for the finale, it's too late into the start of winter to use mortar on these steps, so we're going to do the traditional technique of dry laying stone, the same method we used for laying this whole foundation, and hopefully we'll end up with a strong entry to this very old cabin.
Okay, so these steps, they're pretty functional. They do the job, but it's kind of been in our minds from the beginning that we wanted something really substantial. That's why Robbie is bringing in stone. Tons of stone that he pulled from the fields when he planted this fall. Obviously, working with field stones, you're not gonna get the flattest stones, you're not gonna get the most perfect ones, but I have a couple of tools I can dress stone a little bit. Mostly, this is a rubble stone bit of work. I'm just trying to get through some of the roots in the topsoil, the stuff that has a lot of moisture and life in it. Because all that decay will cause settling. Bye, boys! Bye. All right, it's just us. Let's do some stonework. Robbie and George went to get the shovels. Well, after I'm done with the pickaxe, it'll be time for leveling. Lift. Go.
Go still.
She likes you, Georgie. Part of the reason to do this now is because we're in the last moments before this ground is gonna freeze. It's November in Montana. We're lucky there's not snow on the ground yet. Digging out for the foundation, we're at the last minutes for that. And certainly if we were trying to lay anything with mortar, it's too late. The season in Montana is so short. Something like a lime mortar that needs a month to cure, there's like 1 to 2 months of the year in Montana when you could lay lime mortar. So something like dry stacked is totally what a pioneer would have done out here. They didn't have a lot of other options. And this is the kind of work, making steps for your cabin, you would have done this on the margins. You would never have taken a perfect summer day when you could be planting a field or tending your animals. You would never have wasted a day like that on a convenience like steps. These are a luxury. So this kind of work would always be done on the margins of the year. And in Montana, that's right now before winter hits.
Hey ladies. Hey girls. I gotta come look at these rocks, okay?
You can see the cows have found our pile of rocks. But we should have a pretty good amount between what Robbie's pulled from the fields and some of the really flat stones and then some of the stuff we hauled in for the foundation. But I need giant slabs, I need medium stuff, and I need little tiny pack rocks. It's gonna be a challenge to do it without mortar, especially with steps because they get so much movement on them.
It's like a mile long.
But we're gonna give it a shot, and it's definitely something that a pioneer out here, if they had access to stone nearby, they would have used it. It holds up. It holds up in the winter, so.
Hey boss.
So when we did this stone foundation, it's the same method as this. Basically, you go down to relatively stable earth, but not below the frost line, and you lay a flat and level and tied together base of stones. And you make it pretty wide. The width and the knitting together of the stones is what keeps it from shifting too much over time. But that kind of throws people. I mean, for good reason. But the truth is, this is a really ancient technique that's been used all over the world, from China to Africa to the Americas, of course, all over Europe. Dry stacking stone is a legitimate traditional method for laying stonework. It does allow for some movement to happen. You know, you're not gonna put a sheet of glass over a dry stacked foundation and expect it to never move. But the point is, like so many traditional methods of building, it can compensate for the movement over time. The movement's expected, and when it happens, this is a type of craft that can handle that flexibility. Whereas in our modern world, you pour something with cement, well, if it moves, it's destroyed. That's it. It's done. Its lifespan is not gonna exceed 100 years. Whereas this kind of method, this can exceed hundreds of years. And it's a really interesting way to fit these steps in with the 1800s architecture of the house. It's one of my favorite things to get to do. And anytime I get to work with stone, I am in heaven. We're gonna work with our hands outside on a beautiful fall day in Montana, surrounded by Black Angus cows. Because whenever a person comes out here with anything interesting, like a pile of stone, the cows are gonna join us. So let's enjoy them. Hey ladies.
This week, the interior is taking a major leap. For the very first time, we're attempting to bake in the oven of this early 1900s range. And no, it didn't go so smoothly. This old beauty immediately threw trouble at us.
You can kind of see how it's rolling the flame across, but if I could find this right vent, it should really roll it all the way to the other side of the stove. And that's what it's not doing the way it should.
Here, while you're watching, let me hold this.
Yeah, okay. Whoa!
Maybe not.
Very good. Ah! I think that made it go over more. I do. But we're making smoke. Still trying to figure this out. I don't quite know how it's venting that smoke. Not ideal. Not ideal. It's hot. I don't know if it's hot enough.
Well, the bread went in anyway, but it's anyone's guess if this is going to work or fail.
I'm just gonna keep the firebox loaded with wood. These are just all the offcuts from doing the walls and the roof and all that. Oh, it smells good. Maybe we'll try to. Soft. That's what we were worried about. I think the upper half is gonna taste great. That's about all I can say for it. I think mostly it's just hot. I think if we let it cool, it would still be gross. It smells good. It smells like fresh bread. Yeah, no, it didn't cook. I'd eat it.
the mushier the better. But I gotta figure that oven out. We'll have Susan out. That'll be good. Your timing is perfect.
It's impeccable.
It is.
I was like, I wonder if there's a loaf of bread.
There is.
Uh-huh.
You wanna try some bread?
It's almost like we planned it that way. Oh,
But we didn't.
Is it burnt?
Robbie tries bread.
That looks beautiful.
It does look beautiful on top, doesn't it?
It does. On the bottom, how is it?
Actually, we flipped it.
Oh, it's just as pretty. Do you have fresh butter?
No.
A little bit. A little bit doughy.
Here, I cook all day.
Doughy. Our crust is done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you guys had any yet?
Yeah, I think it's good. But I like it all mushy. Clayton and I were saying, end of every episode, Robbie tries what we made that day.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you're going to think it's disgusting.
Every time.
That'll be the blooper end. Don't spit it out. Robbie.
A little bit doughy. It was just, there was too much going on there. I have a
Sensitive palate.
sensitive palate.
The taste of a fifth
What do
grader.
you call that reflex where it...
Gag
A
reflex.
gag reflex.
I'll eat it.
It smells delicious.
We just need to post this, and then somebody in the comments will tell you.
Yeah. No, I should just ask. Be like, does
Yeah.
anybody know how this stove works?
Yeah.
Because it's different from the one I had. Somebody out there, somebody's grandmother cooked on this and they know. They'll say, oh, there's a little vent on the side and you have to slide the lever and it'll work.
I bet Susan would know.
Oh,
Susan
Lord,
Lamiller, yeah.
She would. I should invite her out here. I think she would love this.
She loves it. She's told me that the stove episode is her favorite.
That's so cute. I should have her out.
Yeah, she'd love it.
I should ask her. Okay, so we have a friend here who's going to help us learn this stove. As the bread showed, it's not just intuitive because these are tricky.
Just be better bakers. It's not a problem. You just have to learn the stove. Oh, they're looking gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
I'm gonna give them 1 more minute.
So, Susan, how long have you been cooking on this type of a stove?
Well, when I was growing up, my mother cooked on a stove almost identical to this.
Really?
And she baked the most gorgeous loaves of white bread. And then over 50 years ago, we bought a wood stove at an auction. We paid $60. I've had that in my kitchen for over 50 years. Loved cooking on it. I love to cook on it. It's not that I cook on it every day. I cook on it during the shoulder seasons when it's just the right amount of fire to heat the kitchen. It's not quite as grand a stove as this, but I've learned how to cook on it. It's quiet, gentle. I learned as a child.
And I think that's how most people would have learned to cook. I mean, today, you can grow up your whole life and never learn.
No.
You can be an adult.
But my
not
mom
know.
could do the most gorgeous bread. Perfect. It's a special memory. Okay, I'm gonna cook.
Oh,
I
those
think
are
they're done.
incredible. Oh my goodness.
So this is a nice hot oven, and it's hot. And we hope they're done in the middle, but I'm sure they are.
That's just...
Perfect as they are, and they do prove that this old oven has all the magic still in it. These aren't just any scones. These are American cornmeal scones. Made using corn we ground this morning in the cabin, and that Susan grew in her own garden, which, for those of you who know how cold and unforgiving Montana is, appreciate the feat of that in and of itself.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna hang my coat up because we're getting serious now.
From a corn stalk to a perfect steaming scone, this is a process.
It is. So, how are we gonna do it?
Okay, so what we do, so it has a really hard outer shell. flint corn, and so when that's ground, that makes the grittiness of cornmeal.
So it adds a grit.
And so what you do, you're just going to go like this. Wow. This is the sweetest flint corn that will grow with our growing season. So the homesteaders burn these
Oh, the corn stalks.
for fuel.
Like in their cook stove.
Yeah.
No
If they
way.
didn't have, well, where are the trees?
That's what I was thinking in Kansas and
They
stuff.
burn corn stalks.
Stick them in the stove.
Fuel. This is a stone mill. Had it like almost 50 years. There's stones. You can adjust the grind. I only put in just a sprinkling at a time. If you fill this hopper, you'd need a muscle man. Taste it.
Just dry?
It's really sweet. This variety, which is called Byron, is supposed to be the sweetest. This is what we're gonna make today.
Flour, cornmeal,
Brown sugar,
baking powder, buttermilk, and eggs.
gold butter.
Fresh, local butter.
Butter.
There's just something so special when you know that you grew it, you ground it. You'd never waste that. You would never just say, it's old, I'll throw it out.
I pick them up off the floor.
I think that egg's just gonna go right out here too.
This is flour. Cup and a half of flour.
We got sugar and spices from our trunk.
Cornmeal. Something about like that. A couple of tablespoons of brown sugar, white sugar. About a half a teaspoon of salt.
Little baking
A
soda.
little bit of soda, not much. Just a quarter of a teaspoon just to neutralize our buttermilk a little. Okay. I never add as much just because we don't have that heavy air pressure. It's high altitude baking. And then we're going to cut in butter. This is homemade butter, Guernsey cow butter, from a neighbor who was generous enough to share. Just going to break. That's getting pretty good. Okay. We may want to sprinkle the top with sugar. Try to knead 10 times. 8, 9, 10.
Beautiful.
This is a nice rolling pin. A wedding gift. It's nice. Very nice.
Oh my goodness.
Culinary hazard. Beautiful corn.
Bloody fingerprint. The blood of the pioneer. Oh, to do kind of a wash.
Yeah, just as.
I'll grab a spoon for the sugar.
Ooh, it's pretty hot.
Pretty hot.
I'm gonna set the pan very close to the front of the oven because it's hotter in the back. Hotter on, of course, the side with the. Keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Part of the success here is learning the quirks of this particular stove. It really is about getting the feel of cooking on it. But the other part is pure science. The first time we fired this oven up, it smoked horribly. So we called in an engineering mind. Uncle Pete came out with his borescope and he found a major blockage in the back recesses of this oven. A hidden baffling we missed during our cleaning.
You think it's all plugged?
Yeah, I mean, there's a damper here, back inside of here. And I can actually highlight it with this borescope flashlight. Move this control off to this side of the stove. The air goes in, it combusts, and it goes right up through the chimney. And that's how you start the stove, and that's how you normally cook on the stove. However, when you want to use the oven, you got to heat all around the stove. So how do you do that? First off, you get the fire roaring, get a nice draft going up the chimney, and then you move this lever here, which shuts this damper back inside of there. And now the flue gases have to run all the way across the top of the stove, down the side, underneath, and on this particular stove, it actually forces the flue gases to go towards the front of the stove, around the baffle, and then up the back. However, when the ashes fall back and plug the backside of it,
Yeah.
you have no path for the gases.
That's what I was worried. When we shut it down and it smoked, it's like
Yeah.
wherever that other opening is, it's not working. Oh,
We're not even like a tenth of the way there.
no way. That does explain why nothing good happened when I tried the oven.
In your garden?
Yeah, put it where my future garden's gonna be.
That's how you get the floor all
This
broken.
is the patina for
It is.
Alistair. Thank you, Pete. Harry and I built that in the shop.
Specifically for here.
Or here.
I saw that video too.
Well, Pete, I think we can officially say thank you. We would not have solved this problem.
Yes, you would have.
The third loaf of burnt bread.
I tried cooking a loaf of bread, and obviously the oven didn't work right.
Yeah.
And it was...
The
Robbie
outside
spit it out.
was
Spit
a
it
little
out.
bit too doughy to make it past 3 chews.
Burnt on the outside, dough on the inside.
It's a new day, we're back. It's windy, it's cold, but the sun is shining, and I really need to make progress on these steps. Let's get into it. If you watched our dry stone foundation video, you'll know that the trick for laying stones is keep everything flat and level. Never lay a rock vertically, always flat, and wedge underneath any gaps or holes. Gotta pack every void, every gap. That way the stones can't fall in on each other and the mice can't find a home. It's been almost a full year since we started this renovation. We started with stone and we're ending with stone.
Now, all these rocks didn't magically appear. They had to be dug from the ground, one piece at a time.
So on the subject of rocks, you can see it's pretty good dirt. Not much going on, not much going on. And bam, there's a rock. It's huge. You can see my hand against it. And in that toolbar, it just tipped it up. Came underneath it, ripped it up. Thankfully, we bought a heavy duty one. That was the nice thing about that. Jesse will be happy. I'm not. I get to pick them up now. She'll have plenty of projects to build with them. But see this shank? That big heavy shank, the rock comes underneath it and pop! And it comes up and there's all these little U-bolts that can break off. Maybe broke a U-bolt or two, but there was one there and I thought I saw one more. I've already pulled about, oh, here's one right here. So we'll come back with the skid steer. You can tell this guy was right underneath the ground. So good as this ground looks, as not rocky, it does have rocks. There's one rock there, we'll put that by that. There's another one. So this is what we're trying to break off. You can see still growing there, you can't pull it out. Shovels on there, the sweeps will come through and they'll cut it just parallel, and then this strip will come off. 2 acres here, 3 acres that we're gonna do, and I will put you guys on a time lapse up here on the hill and we'll see what it looks like. There's this whole hillside with timber on it. And there's this little grass strip that comes down through that. Well, that's what we call a grass waterway. So when all the snow and rain and everything melts on that hill, this is the lowest spot. And so all that moisture will run down through there. And as you can see, it'll go underneath the tractor and around this hill and it won't have very severe, if any, erosion at all. If we just plowed that up, it looked like this dirt, it would be a foot or two deep, a big trench. So when this gets seeded back to hay, we'll probably just cut it for hay, and it'll just be one big field. But for now, we'll just let it be, and it will hold the soil here in place.
Back at the homestead, those rocks are being layered one on top of the other to make a mass of stone steps leading up to the door.
We've had some great comments from people who've watched the channel and they've said, you know, either I grew up the same way, I grew up on land, I grew up with all these little outbuildings and cabins scattered around the ranch, or they can remember their grandmothers cooking on these old cook stoves. There's definitely a common thread, especially in the American experience and places like Australia, and really all over the world. I think there's a lot of people who can remember that shift from a more agrarian life into our world today, which is industrial and cities. Pretty rare to have land these days. I know for me, the ranch I grew up on is gone through changing tides that were out of any family's control. It's just not something we could hold on to. So I know for me and for Robbie, it's definitely become a deeper passion, trying to appreciate the family ranch. We're able to hold on to what's here so much more strongly. That's where this renovation comes from. That's where the desire to preserve history, to try to keep alive those memories, it's so much stronger in us because of that loss. And I think a lot of people can relate. There's a lot of you guys who grew up on ranches that are now gone. You know, from that, you guys and us, we've been able to build different dreams for the future. There's a gratitude in that, but there's also this sort of vein of tragedy at losing a way of life that I think more and more of us realize was really special and probably isn't coming back. Unless the world goes to hell in a handbasket, which it might. You know, this love of history and the preservation of a lot of really humble ranch life, it connects to a lot more people. I think we all have deep ranch roots back in our families. But for now, there's more work to do. This stone isn't gonna lay itself. Weather's turned really cold. I've got winter hat and Robbie's secret trick, ear protection. Keeps the wind out. Little snowflakes are starting to fall.
Our friend Harry stopped by to bring handmade spoons he carved for Uncle Dan's.
Ooh, these are beautiful.
He and Jesse found a patch of sunlight out of the wind, talked history, ancestry, and made plans for doing some traditional woodworking out here at the homestead house over the winter.
Choke cherry, and this is maple.
Maple?
So this is the time where, you know, long underwear doesn't even do it.
That's what Robbie was saying. He's like, it's a long underwear season.
Yeah.
I think you guys can tell it's cold, but I got done what I needed to get done. So we have the first step, the second step, and then a platform ready to put a couple of really big slabs of stone. Hopefully we're gonna come out tomorrow and Robbie's gonna fire up the skid steer, because this is gonna take a little more muscle than I've got.
These long and windy final days make us long for the warmth of cooking in the homestead earlier in the week.
Oh, those are
Incredible.
These that are browner were in that back corner next to the firebox.
Right.
And these were away from the fire towards the front, so you can really see, and that's baking only 10 minutes.
The color is just perfect. Let's pull one off and try it. So what's the right way to eat a scone? Scone, as they would say.
Well, I'd say you put butter in there.
Look at
And
that.
some jam, which we don't. Oh, wow.
Oh, this is gonna be so good.
Cheers. Ready?
Oh. I got the sugar.
I love the corn.
The cornmeal is so nice. I've bought from the store stone ground cornmeal, and it can be so toothy that you're like, it's like sand, and this is sweet and tender. Well done. You're a good gardener.
The Bread of This World by Thomas McGrath. On the Christmas white plains of the flowered and flowering table, the holy loaves of the bread are slowly being born. rising like low hills in the steepled pastures of light, lifting the prairie farmhouse afternoon on their arching backs. It must be Friday, the bread tells us as it climbs out of itself like a poor man climbing up to a cross towards transfiguration. But we who will eat the bread when we come in out of the cold and dark know it is a deeper mystery that brings the bread to rise. It is the love and faith of large and lonely women moving like flowery clouds in farmhouse kitchens that rounds the loaves and the lives of those around them. Just as we know it is hunger, our own and others, that gives all salt and savor to bread. But that is a workaday story, and this is the end of the week.
Projects should have a start and an end. We're notorious for getting 99% done and then getting distracted, but that's not the case here. The big, heavy work ends right now as the snow gets ready to fly. And throughout the winter, there will be plenty of time for experiencing this place, living the pioneer jobs, foods, and skills as the snow piles up and the ground freezes. You may be thinking to yourself, these steps are not exactly perfectly square. Not precise. Isn't that dangerous? Look, we hear you, and we wouldn't champion them for everyday use for all people. But this world needs a little room for magic, for fun, and for history. Life is serious enough as it is. A return to different times is just what the doctor ordered, and historically, a cabin this humble would have had humble steps up to it. We can live with any lack of perfection. This project has always been about what the pioneers could have built with what they had on hand. Stone from the Fields is one of those things. These steps are the cherry on top of a year-long project that has brought us so much enjoyment. As our good friend Harry said this week, you guys have built a time machine. And it's true. We plan to experience this house and to go back in time in history, to learn candle making, woodworking, pioneer cooking, and the like. But the renovations won't stop here. We have a great piece of history we're looking at dragging out of the ground as we speak. It hasn't moved since Grandpa was a boy. After all, this old family ranch is not short on things needing attention, repair, and love. And this one has a really cool backstory. But we'll get to that another time. There's a time to build, and a time to experience what has been built. We're heading into the experience part of this old house. It seems fitting to end it as we started it 1 year ago, on a cold, snowy day out on the Montana prairie.
Thanks everyone for coming on this journey with us. We've loved sharing the story of this house with you.
We'll have more ranch experiences to come, so we hope you stick with us.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Cool.
Cool.
I had to look away because I am blind.
No, I think Uncle Dan's, homesteaded 1889, Montana Territory, by Dan McLaughlin and family, kept intact by generations of the Jackson family. Year built, unknown. Maybe a family house, maybe used by the Great Northern Railroad. All who knew its use have passed away. Tell your children family stories, and tell them again when they forget. Renovated 2024.